who's on top? Who's on top? Who are the number one guys at every single weight class? Especially at the beginning of the season, I think it's interesting to dive in and analyze who is on top as we head into the season. Now, really, I think a lot of these guys may stay the same throughout the season. Well, it's interesting because with in-conference competition, there's not always that competition where we're going to see a lot of interchanging between number one, number two guys, number three guys, because a lot of times they're from other conferences. Not all the times. I mean, with Big Ten, it's a super exciting conference, but as our, I just think it's exciting to watch wrestling, right? So let's talk about every number one ranked wrestler right now. And I'm kind of looking at every single news source. So this includes MatScouts, FloWrestling, Win Magazine, Intermat, and OpenMat. Now, I did not do my own rankings for these wrestlers. I do my own team rankings because I really love to dive into those. But as far as the individuals, I have some opinions on who should be number one, and there are some discrepancies between this. So first at 125, I mean, it's Spencer Lee, right? He's the top pound-for-pound wrestler in the entire country. You all knew that. He just was awarded the Hodge Trophy from the 2020 season. Two-time national champ, looking to be a four-timer. Was undefeated last season, Big Ten champion, finally won his Big Ten championship, well-deserved, especially at 125, okay? And I see him, like I said earlier, I think he can bonus, major, tech his way through the entire season, pin his way through the entire season with bonus points. I really believe that's possible for Spencer Lee. Now let's move to 133. There is a little bit of discrepancy here, and which is kind of understandable considering the situation. So is Nick Suriano going to return? We don't really know yet. And if he does return, he is likely he should have that number one spot at 133 pounds. The returning national champion at 133 pounds will be Nick Suriano. Now, leave a comment. Do you think that Suriano will return, or do you think that he's going to do other things this season? Now, if he doesn't return, the guy that will be at the top here is going to be Dayton Fix. Dayton Fix was a national finalist with Nick Suriano, and I mean, with their two hour-long matches that they had a couple seasons ago, which I don't know, there was some excitement there, but it was mostly just like, what is happening with all these crazy calls? Let's hope we don't get that if they do wrestle in the upcoming year. But Fix is somebody who really only had a couple losses. One was to Suriano, who he had that loss to in the national finals, of course. He had a loss to Mickey Philippi. So Philippi, again, at a weight at 133 where there's a lot of tough guys, you could see Philippi kind of stepping up there, but Dayton Fix is your number one guy at 133 pounds. And that's hoping that he's able to come back this season, depending on, everything that kind of happened with him in the last year in the off season. The next person that I have to talk about is at 141 pounds. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think FloWrestling is just blatantly wrong on this. FloWrestling has Sebastian Rivera at number one at 141 pounds. They're wrong. Okay, I'm sorry, but he should not be at the number one spot. Now, interestingly enough, MatScouts actually has Sebastian Rivera at the number 6 spot. I don't actually agree with that either. I don't think that he should be that low. I think he should be around that probably number 3 spot. I think it should be Jaden Ironman, who is number 1 and who pretty much every other outlet has at number 1. MatScouts has Rivera at number 6, has Ironman at number 1. The other outlets, Win Magazine, Intermat, OpenMat, which I have links to all down in the description below to their rankings, have Ironman at number 1. He's the only loss that Ironman has had since 2018 is Albert, gone, graduated. Joey McKenna, gone, graduated. Bryce Meredith, gone, graduated. And Yanni Diakomihalis, who cannot compete this season. So Ironman has the clear number 1 spot right now. We'll see what will happen to him as far as when he wrestles some competition against Sebastian Rivera and against Nick Lee. I think we'll have a different conversation, but right now Ironman should have that number 1 spot. With Rivera, who was an All-American in the past, he plays 6th and 3rd, is bumping up a weight class. He bumped up from 25 to 33, and now he's at 141, and had a great season at each of those weights, but now at 141, maybe Sebastian Rivera pulls off some crazy upsets like he has in the past. We'll see. But right now, Jaden Ironman should be at number 1. At 149, this is, again, a different discrepancy where FloWrestling has Sammy Sasso at the number 1 spot, where every other outlet has Austin O'Connor. So Austin O'Connor, his only loss last season was to Pat Lugo. Now, Sasso has a win and a loss versus Pat Lugo this season, which is why FloWrestling has them at that spot. And like, I guess I understand, but not completely. I don't think that Sasso should be number one yet. I think that he has a strong inclination to be there eventually at the end of the season. But right now, I don't know. With a win and a loss over Pat Lugo last season, who was the number one, Austin O'Connor only had that loss. So I get it, okay? It was at Midlands. It was a great match. But he is a former All-American, where Sammy Sasso is not. He placed third in the past. Austin O'Connor, I think, is going to have a phenomenal season, and is actually the first guy on this list, he's the second guy on this list to not be in the Big Ten. A lot of number one Big Ten guys, so it's exciting to see somebody who's like in the ACC who's at that number one spot. 157, Deacon. Deacon he's the number one guy at 157, okay? And this is disputed, I guess, a little bit. Some people think that Hidley should be number one. I don't think so, because Deacon has a win over Hidley last season, and Deacon really stepped up onto the scene whenever he had that huge jump at the Cliff Keen Las Vegas tournament, which is a great jump for him. He's a former All-American, placed 6th. And like I said, he just made huge leaps and bounds last season, was able to beat Hayden Hidley, and with his matches like with David Carr, with Hayden Hidley, with Deacon, this is just going to be an exciting triangle of a year with these guys, especially since we're not going to see these guys all wrestle until the national championship. And they already had some exciting matches in the offseason in the tournament, which was cool to see. But with 21-0, Big Ten champion, he deserves that number one spot at 157, which is where he is. He is on top at 157. Now let's talk about the next weight at 165. Okay, at 165 is Mikhail Lewis. Mikhail Lewis is returning Virginia Tech national champion. I know a lot of people are super stoked to see Mikhail. I saw him in action this weekend. Looks solid, and we'll see how he does this season. Can he maintain that national title this season with a very, very determined Alex Marinelli? Now, they had a tough match in the quarterfinals a couple of years ago. I think that match is able to be flipped by Alex Marinelli, but Mikhail took a season off to train for that Olympic red shirt, or to train for the Olympics, took that Olympic red shirt, and I think we're going to see some good things from him this upcoming season and beyond, okay? So now let's talk about 174. Undisputed, easily Michael Kemmer's number one. Bumping up from previous season at 157, where he had Nolf in his way pretty much every single season, was able to All-American twice at 3rd and 4th, just couldn't quite get over that Nolf match. And that's kind of how the Hidley match was too. So that's at 157. But now at 174, able to beat down Mark Hall last season. I mean, in that duel, do you remember that duel when Michael Kemmer just kept taking down Mark Hall? My mind was blown. It was blown. I couldn't believe it. Kemmer proved that he should be the number one guy. Big Ten champ, undefeated last. No, excuse me, not Big Ten champ. He lost to Mark Hall at the Big Ten championships. But the duel. The duel was exciting. So he wasn't undefeated, had that one loss. And I think it'll be interesting for Kemmer because he was a one-time PIAA state champion, won it in his senior year, had a couple guys in his way before that. I think he can be a national champion in his senior year again. In his final year of eligibility is Michael Kemmer at 174. At 184, a couple of different things here. Now, MatScouts believes that Aaron Brooks should be number one. That's Willie Saylor, of course. You can check him out on Rockfin is his content, which some great rankings. He always likes to say it's the best rankings. I don't necessarily know that Aaron Brooks should be number one right now. Could he win it? Yeah, but should he be number one right now? Maybe not. Miles Amin is the number one right now. He is the 3-time All-American. I think he's one of the only All-Americans at this weight. There are a couple returning, I guess, but he's a 3-time All-American. Plays 4th, 3rd, and 3rd. His last, get this. His last 7 losses were to Mark Hall or Zahid Valencia at 174 pounds, which, upon relooking at these stats, one, I still can't believe that Zahid was down at 174, seeing how big he is now, but his last 7 losses were to Mark Hall or Zahid. So Miles Amin is somebody, now that he's stepping up to 184, his only losses were to those 2 studs, national champions. I think that we're going to see good things out of Miles Amin this season, as well as at 197, I think we're going to see some great things out of Noah Adams. Noah Adams, 32-0 last year, 32-0 in 2020, the Big 12 champion. He was somebody who I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but like he made his way onto the scene being undefeated, had some good wins. I was excited to see how he did at the national tournament to see if he can pull off some more ranked, more touted wins, and I think he definitely can in the future. But Noah Adams of West Virginia is the number one guy at 197 pounds. And that leaves heavyweight, which is Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson, 15-0 in 2020. The national finalist, national semifinalist, All-American from Minnesota. I think that Gable Steveson has a great shot to win the national trophy this year. We'll see. I mean, heavyweight is honestly, and this I don't say this a lot, and I haven't said this in recent years, but like heavyweight is one of the most stacked weights in the NCAA. It really is. With Gable Steveson, Mason Parris, Greg Kirkfleet coming in there, Anthony Cassiope. Oh my goodness. These guys at heavyweight. And drop a comment what you think will be the most difficult weight this season with all these number one guys, as well as how many of these guys do you think will actually stay at the number one spot? If you like this clip and are looking for more wrestling news and discussion, I recommend that you check out the full Fanco Wrestling Show podcast, which is live on this YouTube channel every single week. You can click here to subscribe to be notified of new and upcoming videos, or you can check out the Fanco Wrestling Show on your favorite podcasting platform to listen on the go. Stop stalling and start listening today.